Europe is one of the biggest agenda points here in Davos. Of course, much of the conversation focuses on the deflationary pressures that the Eurozone economy is facing and what the ECB as well as different governments can do to fight that. But we're now about to talk about a different aspect of some of the challenges Europe is facing. I have with me a world-renowned scientist and the head of the ERC, Professor Jean-Pierre Bourguignon. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us in Davos here. Your work focuses on innovation in Europe, and that fits in beautifully with one of the comments we had coming in from Edmund Phelps, the Nobel laureate, who said that he thought one of Europe's biggest failures has been the lack of innovation in the last few decades. Can you talk us through the ERC's agenda?
Well, I can do that. I mean, ERC, European Research Council, is one of the components of the so-called Horizon 2020 program of the European Commission, which really embraces the idea of the support of research and innovation with three pillars. One pillar is excellent science, and ERC is part of it. The other part is industrial leadership, and the last part is societal challenges. I mentioned this just to show that you need to look at these policies globally, and you need to coordinate them properly. So, of course, the responsibility of ERC is focused on really the most ambitious science, and with the idea that by unleashing the dynamic of the researchers, then we are really creating the best possible conditions to really, in the end, get innovation.
Are there specific areas of science that you're looking at encouraging or boosting?
Thank you very much for pointing this, because actually we just do the opposite. That is, we just are strictly bottom-up approach. That is, we just ask the researchers to propose what they think is the most challenging, the most interesting things to do. Of course, there are other parts of the Horizon 2020 program which are really focused on some areas, aeronautics, all kinds of things, IT and many other things. But in the case of ERC, we're just really trusting that the researchers are going to propose the most ambitious and challenging things.
So how are you planning to go about this? And also, if you can link for me how you think this will help Europe revive.
I think the key point, is that the way the economy has been developing in many countries since 20 years is a bit different from the previous scheme. The previous scheme is quite often called the linear model, which says you first do fundamental research, then you do applied research, then you do industrial research, then you develop products. Now it seems that there are a number of situations where you really have shortcuts. That is, all of a sudden somebody comes with an idea or a concept or a process which can be turned into economic activity. Of course, you need people to invest properly to do that right, but so now a number, for example, of the most active patents are really coming from this kind of thing. So which means that you have a very direct linkage between some fundamental research and then industrial activities. So I think for Europe, it has to embrace this new scheme, understand how it works, and in particular find the people who are able to create the links. That's very important.
Is this a program that is a top-down program? And in that I mean, is it an effort by the European Commission to foster innovation across all member countries, or do you expect member countries to participate in their own ways as well?
Well, that's always the story at the European level. That is, all the activities which are done globally at the European level cannot make sense if they are really, if the countries are going in the opposite direction. So in our case, for the support of research and innovation, of course, it's very important that the countries continue to support what they used to do in the proper way, and in particular that the overall balance of Horizon 2020 I mentioned does not only exist at the level of Europe, but also exist at the level of the countries. And unfortunately, in recent years, some countries, because of the crisis, have decided to cut the support to research and very often take a very top-down approach when you need a minimal part of the research to be really bottom-up. So this overall balance is necessary, because the amount of money that Europe is putting in any activities, actually, compared to the countries, is always something like 10% or 8%. So with 8%, you cannot change the whole figure if the people are going in the opposite direction.
Could you give us a sense of what the size of this program could likely be in money terms?
Well, we know that because part of the peculiarities of Europe is the fact that the budget is fixed for 7 years. We just enter a new priority for 2014-2020. The overall budget of Horizon 2020, 77 billion euro.
Wow.
And my own program, I mean ERC, the program I'm responsible for, every year gets about $2 billion. So it's a substantial program. So every year we support about 1,000 new research projects.
What are some of the initial successes that you've seen and you would like to talk about to foster more enthusiasm for the program?
Sure. We have actually more than 4,000 grantees at the moment, so of course there are many, many examples.
Sure.
There's one I would like to point to because I like him very much, and he's an Indian who came to Europe to develop that. And his program is very interesting. He's somebody who has created, by a very thorough analysis of the way waves are propagating, a way of creating the feeling that you are touching something with your fingers without actually touching. So it means that the way the waves is sent to you actually creates a wavefront which you feel with your fingers. Actually you're not touching. And of course there are many applications, like in medicine we don't want to pollute, or you don't want to have a really contact, but you still want to get the feeling that you are doing something. So I think he is at the moment going from very fundamental research to really developing a company. That's a typical example, one of the shortcuts I was suggesting. So starting from a very thorough scientific analysis and then turning into something which can become really a very interesting tool from an economical point of view.
And ERC will complete the chain, will help these companies go to market with their products as well?
Fantastic. Actually, we felt that there was really something missing, so we created a sub-program which is called Proof of Concept, which is exactly doing that. When a researcher finds that there is a possibility for him or her to branch out to economy or to branch out to something more directly connected to society, we are willing to add some more money to the money he receives or she receives for the research. And then one thing we proved, the amount of money is not so huge, but actually it proved extremely important for people who are business angels or want to invest, because the fact that these people can really get through this next selection really is a proof that the business plan is really worth being supported. So it proved to be really a very interesting step for people to go further.
Okay, Professor, I have one last question. I know you're not an economist, you told me that. You're a world-renowned scientist, but how do you see this effort at boosting innovation in Europe eventually helping European economies revive?
Well, I think, you see, it's for Europe, in a sense, it has been a bit too long believing in its strong points without realizing that many new aspects of economy were developing many other parts. And really not, in a sense, the research in itself at Europe level was really still okay, but these linkages I was describing, they were just developing completely elsewhere, quite often in Asia, quite often in America, in particular Silicon Valley is a very typical example. So I think there is the need for European leaders to understand that economy now is developing differently, and that in particular something that you want to really control completely is not the way it functions. You need to create opportunities for people, in particular both on the scientific side but also on the investment side. So this new philosophy of getting the economy more non-linear, by opposition to the linear model, I think is something which needs to be understood at the highest level.
Professor Bourguignon, thank you so much for your time and all the best with the program. Thanks for speaking to us here in Davos.
Thank you very much. Thank you.